Okay, so perfect. So starting the recording again. So getting to the guest list, keep in mind the only thing with copying that meeting is it does carry over the guest list. So any additional people maybe you added to the, you included in this meeting or that January meeting would also come over to this meeting. So you just want to double check that. Make sure it's the correct people that they are supposed to be at it. If you need to, you can always add people. So just next to their name, you just click on the plus or even the minus sign so you can get rid of someone if they're not supposed to attend that meeting. But if I think everything's good, I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now it's creating that meeting. But again, since it was that copy, it doesn't do anything to that January meeting. It just makes a brand new meeting based off that information. Now, of course, if you guys don't have the same location or anything like that, you don't really care to, copy from a previous meeting, you can always just create one from scratch. I just like to show kind of that little shortcut. So now when it does have your meeting, brings you to this, the details information. This is actually the page it would take you to if you click the title of that event. So here again brings your details. If you again put in a full address, they will have this directions button. And then it has that little note saying meeting materials will be available. If I scroll down, it has my guest list. So here's where it displays again who's attending, not attending, who hasn't replied. So of course, no one's replied yet. At the very top though, where it says guest list, there's this little drop down and you can click request responses and that's gonna send that email to them. Now let's say you start getting in responses. Mostly everybody has responded. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 that haven't. If you click request responses again, it will send another email, but it'll only go to those 3 or 4 that haven't responded. Okay. And again, as they start responding, it'll start, filling them in where they, how they responded. And from their drop down, you'd also be able to change their response if needed. You can message that specific person. So you do have a drop down per user as well. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and kind of refresh this by clicking my board effect. Takes me back to that landing page. And then of course, if I keep scrolling again, there's my welcome message. There's still my January meeting and then all my other events. And now here's my April 2020 meeting. Okay. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to create a book. Now, if I go ahead, I'm going to click attach or create. Now, again, you do have those additional collaborative tools like surveys and polls that you can attach to that meeting. We're not going to go through those today. So feel free, again, you can always schedule an additional call in regards to those. Or of course, there's, again, webinar recordings just specifically based on that information. But again, basics today is we're going through the book. So I'm going to go ahead and click create book. Now, do you guys have kind of the same outline or agenda for each of your meetings, or does it change every time?
More or less it's the same. Like if
Okay.
we have a conference call, then it kind of follows the same format, and then the in-person meetings follow a slightly different format. But in general, like all the in-person meetings follow like similar formatting to each other.
Okay, perfect. So that's where I like to mention, I am going to get into how you can create a template and just once we're done kind of creating this book. But I think templates would probably be super helpful for you just because it will save you a lot of time. And you can create as many templates. So you could have one based on in-person meetings. You could have one based on conference calls. So kind of like you mentioned the different meetings you might have, you can have different templates for those, but they'll definitely save you time. So getting into this, I'm creating my April book. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of in the title. I don't really care for it to say meeting book and April 20, I just wanted to basically be the title of that meeting. So April 2020 Board of Directors meeting. Now, if I want, I can just scroll down and start creating this one from scratch. But to save a little bit of time, I am just going to go ahead and select my template. So I'm going to choose this Board of Directors meeting book. It'll do a little refresh of the page. And then what it's going to do, and again, I'll get into the template part after creating this book, but I just want to give you an idea of how it all works. So first thing you're going to see is you have this generated cover page and generated agenda. Now those are ones based on Board Effect. if you don't want to, if you don't want a generated cover page or agenda from us, just leave it unchecked so you don't have to use these. But again, it would include this information. So whatever you want. So your header, since I selected a template, in my template I just have month, date, year, just so I know to update this every time. So I'm going to update this to the date of the meeting. It brings over my address because I wanted that information in there. And then scroll down to see generated agenda and what will be included on that. Now with both of those, you're going to see this edit font styling button. If I scroll back up, you have it under generated cover page as well. So if I click that, you can actually change the look of it. So the font, the color of it, the size of the text. Again, the nice thing with your templates is, let's say you went in and you selected all your colors, how you want it all to look. If you save that in your template, it will bring all of this over. So that way you won't have to change this every single time, which comes in handy because as you can see, the cover page one isn't too bad. But if I scroll down to my generated agenda option of edit font styling, there's a lot more options. So a lot of things you can change. You can change the font of each line, change the color of each one, the style, the size, and all of your categories as well. I do want to mention too, this is actually where you can change, like I have none for my categories and subcategories, but if you have like upper Roman numerals, upper alphabetical, number, and so on, you can actually choose all of that here as well. So again, a lot more options under this font styling. If you make your choices within your template, it will carry all this information over. So I'm just going to go ahead. Once you have your generated cover page and agenda, you'll need to click Save and Continue. That is the only way you'll be able to move on to actually creating all of your categories. Now, if I scroll down right under Generated Agenda, you're going to see this Add Main Category button. So that's how you create new ones. But because I selected a template, you're going to see all of my previous items for my template carryover. So I always have call to order, approval minutes, presence report. You can even see I have subcategories for additional reports. And then also at the very bottom, you have another option of add main category. So let's say you've added in a ton of items and all of a sudden you're at the very bottom, you can actually just click from here. So it doesn't matter either one to add in new categories. So we're going to go ahead, add one in, just because let's say there's a new one I'm talking about in this meeting. I'm just going to title this additional discussion items. And again, when you add in your categories, you can add in time, presenter, and so on, if you have it, or if you keep track of that. Now, when you do add in a new category, it does add it automatically to the very bottom because we don't know where it needs to go. Like, let's say, again, this is my template. I have all my main items. We don't know exactly where this item needs to go. So we're going to put it at the bottom, but you can rearrange it. That's going to be using that hamburger menu. So the lines, you hold it down and you just drag and drop. So wherever it needs to go, I'm going to put it after old business. So it takes it from that bottom, moves it there. Now I'm going to go ahead and add in a subcategory though. I'm just going to say guest presenter, click save. Again, it nests right under that additional discussion items. Or let's say here under additional reports, I need to go ahead, add in a new subcategory. As you can see here, you have additional reports, but my first subcategory is 2019 financials. Underneath that, you can even have another one, title it current quarters update. So, and I could even add in another subcategory based under current quarters update if needed. But I, of course, just want to add in 2020. I want that under additional reports. So I'm going to say 2020 financials. Click save. And you can see it lines up with 2019. And again, with each one, like let's say again, approval of minutes, you have your drop down. I'm going to rename this. I want to title this approval of minutes from March meeting. and click submit. So pretty simple. Again, once you get in here, you're just going to keep clicking add main category, add in all of your main items. Start adding in your subcategories if you have any. At the very top of the screen, though, I'm going to scroll back. You're going to see there's not a build book option. As mentioned before, you're not going to see that until you've actually uploaded a file in here. So let's go ahead. We're going to add in a document. We're going to go ahead and add in our approval of minutes. So again, if you already have your files open on your computer, you can actually just drag them into this box or just click for more options and it will allow you to browse. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. You can upload your file from your computer. So if I click browse, I can actually find it anywhere on here. But just to kind of save some time, I've also, let's say, uploaded some documents already into my library. So I just want to grab it from there. So we're grabbing minutes. I'm going to scroll down because there's a ton in here. And I'm just going to click on this one. And then I'm going to click save. Now what it does, if I scroll down, I've attached it here, has this little hourglass icon. Let's say you've uploaded a file that is not a PDF. It's a Word doc, a PowerPoint. We will actually convert that upon upload for you. So that's what that little hourglass icon indicated, was that we are converting it right now to PDF. Once it's uploaded in here though, you can go ahead, edit that. Like, I don't want it to be titled that. Just because that's how I have it saved on my computer doesn't mean that's how I want my users to see it. So I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm actually just going to title this March Meeting Minutes and click submit. Now I'm going to go ahead, upload my documents to my president's report. Oh, wrong one. There we go. I'm just going to select it again from my library. But again, so if it's just from your computer, you'll just have that upload file option. So I'm going to have president's presentation. And let's just say we're going over the mission statement again or something, and click save. So again, you can select multiple files right at the same time. And if I scroll down, they're both Word documents, so they both are converting right now. But even though they're still converting, you can still change things. And again, you can also rearrange those. So maybe I wanted president's presentation obviously to be first. I'm going to go ahead and move that up. So pretty simple how to rearrange everything. And now if I scroll to the top, you're also going to see that build book button. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that because I do want to see the progress of it, see how it looks. Okay, so it's finished. I'm going to click done. It's going to change this look, which is how the users will see it. If they go in and click that book button, this is going to be the page it automatically takes them to. So it has everything in order. They can actually click on this document. It opens in a new tab, but it's only going to open that specific one. It also opens through that PDF viewer, so they won't have the annotation capability. So again, this is just kind of that overall look, overall view. But what you can do, and of course what's recommended to your users, is all the way to the right, under View, you have Meeting Book Viewer. So I'm going to click on that, and it opens in a new tab. During your board orientation, if you've scheduled one, this is what they will actually go through. So they're going to go through opening this document, how to go through each of the items, how to make annotations all over it. So we're not going to go through that today, but that will go, if you've scheduled your prep call and board orientation, the client advocate will go through that with you. But just so you know how it kind of looks, again, once you've created it, you have your outline on the left. Again, if you did the generated cover page and agenda, that displays right here, and it's the first 2 pages. If you skipped those, obviously you won't see that option. It will just go into whatever your first main category is. And then if I also click that arrow, let's say approval of minutes, it brings up the document that's attached. If you click on it, it takes you directly to it.
question.
Yeah.
So if I were, or if you were to export that file, are those like bookmarks going to appear in the exported PDF version?
You mean like if you downloaded it, because there's a download full PDF. Is that what you're meaning?
Yes, because I'm just curious, like, because what I was doing before in the past was I was actually like physically inserting bookmarks like in the PDF
Mm-hmm.
as a way of like, because our documents are pretty long, so that allowed like board members to skip around by, clicking on whatever the bookmark they wanted, whatever they're interested in,
Right.
which was like a bookmark. So is that going to be available with that version?
So this is the one, yes, that they open through the viewer. So the idea is when they get into their platform, they go into this meeting, they click Meeting Book Viewer. This is the page it will take them to, and that these are all of their little bookmarks on the left-hand side.
Okay, I guess I'm just trying to figure out because we also send like a copy uh, of the board binder to people that aren't attending the meeting,
Okay.
but we want to loop them in. So that's why I wanted to know
Let me
if the
go
downloaded
ahead. I'm going to click this
PDF
download full
also,
PDF. Yeah.
because they won't be logging into the system.
Yep.
Oh, okay,
So
great.
yeah, so if you do that downloaded version, when they open it through the PDF viewer, they just click the bookmarks and it has all that right here.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right. So again, just kind of to give an idea, again, this is everything you built, you created, you can rearrange things still if needed, and then your annotations are on the top right. So again, that's how the users can make personal notes like highlight, add in text notes and sticky notes all over it. Again, by default, they are personal to that user, so no one else can see what they add in. However, you do have an option now called shared annotations. That is a setting that you would actually need to turn on if you'd like. And then the user actually decides if they want to share certain annotations with the group or not. So closing out of that, so again, as you can see, you can always click Edit Book and make changes if you realize something needs to be rearranged. Go ahead and make those changes as long as you need to. And then what you'll have now is you see this, it says Book Not Visible. So if the user were to log in, they'd see that event card, see the meeting, but if they click book, there's not going to be anything visible for them. And also with it not being visible, you're going to see there's not that option to notify users. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click the dot, changes it to green, says it's visible now, and now you also have this notify users option. So if you click that, it's going to bring up everybody that's invited to that meeting. You can remove people if needed, but then it brings up that email notification. Now, this is actually our template. We already have email templates created for you. They're very generic, but it works for everybody. It's kind of, obviously, I haven't changed anything in my template, so this is actually what this one would look like. You are able to update this at right at that time if needed. But if you want to update your overall template, you easily can under settings. But what you would do is this would be the email that would go out to everybody, now allowing them to know that the meeting's available to them. And then you would just click send and it would go to all of them. Now, just to kind of show you, if you realize you want to change that, under your settings, basically to the very bottom, you have email templates. So you have several that you can go through. So there's a tab for books and resources, RSVPs. But the one we were just under was notify users. So this is where it is. You can change the subject and the whole body of it if you'd like. You can even test it. So click send test email. It's going to go to your email address. It's going to come from a very generic BoardEffect email address though. So just keep that in mind just because it is a test. However, when you do send it out to your users, it will come from you. So it will show that it's coming from your email address. But the test to yourself will just come from a generic BoardEffect email. If you realize it doesn't look how you want it to, it's not working the same way, you can actually just click Restore to Default. It brings up all of this information for you. So again, that's under your settings, email templates. You can look through these and make changes to fit your organization if you need to. Okay. Now, if I go ahead, we do call these little kind of breadcrumbs, so I'm going to go ahead and click on My Board Effect. It's going to take me directly back to that landing page. And if I scroll down, upcoming events, here's my April, and then you have book. All right, now I do want to mention, of course, like I said, a couple of things in regards to templates, just because I think it would be helpful. I'm going to go into Board of Directors, and I'm going to go into Library. So there's kind of two ways that you can create a template. Now, have you already kind of created a meeting in the system and created a book that you like or that you typically follow along with?
I've done both, although it's the book itself is just, I don't know, just very beginning, so.
Okay. Well, because I just want to
Pretty big.
mention, there's two ways you can do it. So let's say you've already gone in, you've created a meeting event, and you've created a book out of that meeting event. And that's the one you like. You think it's good. You think it's the one that you already follow along with. So you just want to go ahead and save that as a template. You can. So under your library, under meeting books, you have your visible books. So like, let's just say April 2020, that was my first meeting. And I like this one. I want to save this one as a template. From the dropdown, you can actually say copy to template. So everything we just created in that April 2020 meeting would then be generated into a template. And you can name that template however needed. And then let's say you go in to create your May 2020 meeting, you'll have that new template to choose from. Okay. So that's one way. But if you haven't created a book yet, still under library, but I'm going to click book templates. You can actually just click new template from here. And this is where you would create it. So again, if you haven't created one, you just want to build it completely from scratch, not based off any of those events you've maybe scheduled, you would just create it right from here. And then again, when you go in to start creating your events, you'll have them from the dropdown.
Okay.
All right, any questions about that? Any questions about creating the event, the meeting book, the template?
I had a quick question actually. So if there are like changes to the documents, how will the users get notified? Because we have frequent changes, so like the documents that actually compose the or are part of the board book. So that's something we've always kind of struggled with and sending out multiple emails. So I'm just curious like how the users in this system will be notified.
So of course, I don't think we don't have an automatic one when you do replace a file. Just because of course, you know, if it's one that you don't really want to notify them about, or you already have let them know about, you know, you've already done 5 different ones, and you don't want them to get a 6th one. So we don't have an automatic one when you do replace.
Okay.
But let me go, actually, sorry. I'm going to go back into that meeting. Now, of course, what you can always do, you can always, from the guest list, if you'd like, you can always message them.
Okay.
So you can do it from here, or, so that was just under guest list, but let me go back in a book. So you could always do it from there. Or of course, now do you typically make them once they're visible? Like once you've notified them that the book is visible, now you do let them know about kind of all the updates?
Probably. I mean, I'll try to hold off as long as I can.
Okay. Yeah, because again, what you could always do is this one also, like the one that we did notify users, it already carries over everybody, and you could just change this just for that email.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but just wanted to double check.
Yep. All right, any other questions? What we're gonna do, last couple of things I just have to go over with you. We're gonna go back into the slides. We're gonna just kind of do an overview of the settings. We don't go really too in depth with those just because it's a lot of information, and we do have a webinar just based on settings that you can go through. So it's kind of, again, a lot of information to kind of take in. So that's kind of the last few things we have to go through. Before I do switch back into the slides though, any other questions?
Yeah, I guess is there ability to add page numbers, or is that automatically done through the
It
PDF?
should already be done. Let me go back into.
And that's my last question. I don't want to like,
No, you're fine. So when you're in the meeting book viewer, I don't think, so it doesn't automatic, so mine doesn't have it because I didn't have it checked. Let me go ahead and click edit book because I don't think I had it checked under the generated agenda.
And is there an advantage
There.
of doing the agenda that way? Oh,
Um,
okay.
I mean, the only thing is it kind of gives them, oh, there we go. If you do click the agenda, it just kind of gives them an overview of this. And then, because yeah, I mean, they can't really click on anything from here.
Okay.
But it's also kind of helpful, I guess, like if they print or anything like that, it kind of gives them the whole overview of like what it looks like. But let me go back into this because I am going to click this generate page number, generate page numbering. I'm going to click save and continue. Because when you are in this one, like this is without that generated page numbering, it does have your page numbers at the very bottom right here. And
Okay.
that's just really like, if I type in 4, it takes me to what page 4 would be. So it has that at the very bottom, but if you want it on your actual document, so I just clicked that. Done. And then we'll go ahead and click that again. So that does add it at the very bottom of the actual document.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll switch back into the slides. I just want to double check one more thing. Okay. So switching over. All right, so like I mentioned, settings, we're just going to do a kind of an overview of all of this. Please feel free again to kind of check these again later on. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to us. There's, again, a webinar just based on settings that you can go through too, just because it is a lot of information. But the settings is only available to the top level system administrators. So keep in mind, if you do have any workroom admins, I don't know if you do or not, but if you were to, they do not have access to the settings whatsoever. So that is something only you have available too. First thing under your settings that you're going to see is, of course, the general settings, what we kind of already had taken a look at, where you can edit and modify your organization's information. So the title of your platform and who you want that organizational representative to be. In the upper right corner, though, you do have a look and feel button. So if you haven't added in your logo, that's where you're going to put that in. So the logo that will display throughout the platform, the printed logo, and again, if you add in the logo URL, if they were to click on your logo, it will take them to your website. You have your default time zone. So of course, I believe by default, we always put it as Eastern time. So that's going to be your default that you want like your entire group. You can change this per person though. So let's say your default is Eastern time zone, but maybe you have 2 people that are Central time. You can always go in and change it just for them under their profile. There's a very skinny top bar of the platform when you log in, so you can change the color of that if you'd like. I believe initially it's like some yellowish color. And then you do have directory display options too. Here is an area that you can manage your users. So you can actually add, modify, and deactivate your users from here. So again, you do have that overall directory where you can also do this too. Manage users is just kind of another section, but you do also have some more options in here. Like you have your inactive users, you can keep track of that. But this is where you can also add in user categories. Keep in mind, these are just more of a label. So it doesn't like, change any of their access or anything like that. It's just kind of a group. It's just a label for them. So board members, staff, guest, I think is what we start you off with. But if you want to add in chairs, vice chairs, you can always do that too. This is where you can unlock users. So let's say someone's attempted to log in way too many times. They're locked out of their account. Here's where you can actually come in and unlock them. And this is where you can also add and edit term information. This is an area where you can manage your workrooms, of course. So add, modify, and deactivate them. Decide what they have access to. Keep in mind, work groups you will only see if you are contracted for them. So your main focus would be to manage the workrooms. So again, what they have access to, if you click on the workroom name, it will expand the information. So again, you can see what you've already put their access to. You can set workroom administrators. So again, you're the overall system admin, but maybe you have someone that's going to help with just this specific one. You can make them a workroom admin. You can also manage your users from here. So again, if you forgot to add them into their workroom when you were setting them up, you can add them directly from here. And another section again, click on the drop down for that profile and you can actually edit their own profile from here, maybe make them an admin, reset their password. So again, you kind of do have 3 different sections in order to manage your users: the directory, manage users, and then directly from this manage workrooms area. This is where you can add, modify, delete event categories. So this is where I keep mentioning you can easily distinguish maybe what is a meeting versus what is not. You can even color code them. So again, your board meetings versus committee meetings versus fundraising events, social events. Here's your mobile devices. This is where you can keep track of users that are authorized for mobile devices to use them. So you can authorize from here. You can even revoke. So if a device was lost or stolen, you can control that from here. And then you also have your advanced settings. So here you can double check that the enable biometric support is checked. That means they would be able to log in using Touch ID or facial recognition. And then you can even check this enable Android app access. I think by default this was unchecked, so you might want to double check this if anybody is using an Android device. This means if you have this checked, they can actually go through our Android app. If this is not checked, they can still go through a browser. And then you have custom fields. So maybe this is information you would like to capture about your users that we don't have a field for. So birthdays, demographics, maybe allergies. So you can go ahead, create your own custom fields that you want filled out. You can always export this information as an Excel file as well. Now we do also have several reports that you can keep track of information on, like login activity, your attendance if you've taken it, user and workroom permission, so an overall report on that, all that term information you might put in, and again, even event details by the workroom. So you can take a look at these at any point whenever you need to. Now we have our security summary. First thing you're going to see under general is that activate support admin. So this might be checked for you. It probably is, but it is. We do recommend to keep it checked at least while you're initially getting started. I do believe for your prep call and board orientation, they are going to suggest that this be checked. What that means is, let's say you do need help. You need support from a client advocate or from even someone on the support team. You need them to log into your platform, double check something. The first thing they'll double check is that this is actually checked. So we would not be able to get into your platform unless this box is checked. And then of course by the confirmation of you. But this is helpful like for that prep call. If they're gonna log in, double check, if you have everything set up that you should for the board orientation. So they'll make sure that this is checked. You can always customize your password complexity. And then you can also review your default security settings from here. So again, these are already set for you. If you see something you want it changed, this would be something that you need to submit a help desk ticket for. Now, here are certain features, though, that you can turn on and off yourself. Like one of them, or another example is this contributor link expiration. I think by default, I don't know if it still is, but it was set to 45 minutes. So obviously, if you want to extend that, you can to 2 weeks. Your daily digest frequency, by the title of it, it is daily. However, you can change this to weekly now. And then we have some very generic BoardEffect templates. I think there's like 3 or 4. So if you don't want to start from scratch, you can actually take a look at ours if you'd like, maybe start from there and then work based off of that information. Completely up to you. Just know that there are a few templates already built in. We did already go through the email templates, but again, you can change the title, the body, everything in order to fit your organization. Again, you have several of them that you can change. You can always send that test email, double check how it would look for your users. Just keep in mind it will go to you from a generic BoardEffect email address. If you don't like, again, how it looks, you can always click Restore to Default. And then final tab you'll see under settings would be your integrations. So this is where you can actually enable single sign-on with other applications or solution providers. So feel free to connect those applications you already use to BoardEffect, so it's easier access by your users. Like for example, again, like if you use Okta single sign-on, we have different reporting tools like Salesforce and Tableau. As mentioned, video conferencing. So if you have an account with GoToMeeting and Zoom, you can set those up. And we have a file storage one of Google Drive Picker. Now keep in mind though, this may require some assistance from your IT in order to configure all of this.
Okay.
Okay, so again, that's kind of an overview of the settings menu. Feel free to take a look at those at any point. You have questions, please feel free to reach out to us in regards to all of that. Now, a few last slides. This is kind of outside of the platform, just overall with your BoardEffect account. Your onboarding timeline. Everything you see right here should be everything you've already completed. We just completed that training part 1. So next step would be, if you are contracted for the minutes module, you can set up a training session for that. But of course, you'll want to go in and go ahead and get all of your content populated. So again, create your events, your template if you'd like, create your books, make sure that those are completed prior to the prep call. Because again, when you do a prep call with the client advocate, they are going to look at your platform, double check what is set up. They're going to want to make sure that a book is for sure set up, some documents in there, so that it is good to go for your board orientation. Now, of course, I believe, do you already have a board orientation set up? I think you do.
Yeah, it's February 3rd.
Okay.
So I guess for the content population, I can double check with my manager, like how many documents will be available, but I don't know, like if we're probably gonna have like a small number. Is that okay?
Yeah, no, that's completely fine. What they're going to double check is the client advocate just wants to at least make sure at least one document is in there. That way they can go over, because for board orientation, they'll just want to obviously be able to go over annotations. So it's just kind of, even if you have an example document that you can add in, it doesn't even have to be a set one, but if you have one that could just be kind of a test one that the client advocate could go through, that way, again, they can kind of show them how to highlight, and everything like that, because you won't be able to click build book until there's that file in there. So again, even if you have just a test one that you can throw in there, definitely at least one file should be uploaded in there.
Okay. Can I also like upload a previous board book? That way it's more complete?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Okay.
they're not going to say that it has to be like, hey, this has to be your February 3rd meeting that you're going through. It could definitely be a previous one. That way too, it doesn't affect anything, going forward in any of your, future meetings. So yeah, so definitely feel free, like if you do have past documents, past, meeting minutes that you want to throw in there, you can definitely do that. They're not going to say, hey, this needs to be for your future meeting.
Okay, I might do that, but thank
Yeah.
you.
No problem.
Yeah,
that way too, because again, during the prep call, what the client advocate is going to do is look at your actual platform and see what you have set up. So they just want to make sure that you have an event created, you have, a book created, at least a document in there, because again, you won't be able to click build book until you have one in there. But yeah, you can definitely do it based off, past meeting information if you'd like.
Okay.
And then, of course, you should have that prep call scheduled too, I believe. That'll be a few days prior to the board orientation. Again, that way they know exactly what to go through. They'll review your platform. And then, of course, final thing, like you said, on February 3rd, you will be getting your board members trained.
Okay. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
No
I
problem.
look forward to that. Yeah.
And then, of course, just again, this slide you've already seen, but just as an idea, again, you have that ongoing education and support. So keep in mind those client webinars held 1 to 2 every week. There's recordings if you can't make it, but feel free, again, to always double check that schedule. You can always register for them. If you can't make it, then you don't have to attend. But of course, that way, at least you get notified of when they are. Knowledge base, again, very helpful, especially, again, once we get off this call, you'll get our our recordings and so on. That way you have our specific, call. But if you want to just go over something specific, creating that template or book or something, it's going to be under that knowledge base. Again, we do keep you up to date with that BE announcements. You have your annual user conference. You can always look for more information. I do know there's some information already out on our website, so you can always double check that. Feel free to schedule a Q&A session with a client advocate. And then, of course, feel free, this very last slide has my information, so you can contact me. I believe you have your other client advocates, you have our information. You can always submit a help desk ticket, call our support number. If you do have any questions, you are always backed up by us. So please feel free to contact us whenever.
Okay.
All right, but that is the last slide I have for you. Like I said, now you'll need to give me a second just so I can get it takes a second for Zoom to have our recordings available. So once I get that though, I'll send you that follow-up email with, kind of the general one and then our training videos. That way you have all of it. But do you have any other questions before I let you go?
I guess if I notice, like as I'm doing like adding things in, as I notice issues crop up or things that maybe like from a user perspective or an admin, would I just notify like the customer support or should I send those to
Yes,
you?
if you are noticing something that's like not working right, something is stuck, something, if you get like a weird error message, something like that, you would definitely just contact support. I just think it's just support@boardeffect.com. So you can contact them. You can also, if you want, while you're in your platform working on it, if you submit that help desk ticket, it's under that help tab. It just says create a ticket. If you click on that, it goes directly to support when you fill it out.
Okay. Is it better to submit the tickets like directly through the system, like so that I can see previous tickets that I've submitted, or?
They do usually recommend to do the create a ticket because, like you said, there is a report on that. It reports on our end, but then there's also where you can see, like you can manage your open tickets.
Okay.
So
Also,
let me
like,
just real quick. Let me, if I show, back in the platform under help. So if I click create a ticket,
okay.
it's right here, and you can again also decide what it's under.
Okay.
And you can send it in. Even if you have like a photo or something, you can add that in too.
Okay.
And then you can do review your open tickets.
Okay. If I just want to send like general feedback, because I was noticing like an area, I think it was under create users. It was just like from my own perspective, like my own feedback on like the number of steps that it took to do something. Should I also do it through here as well?
Yes, it would go through there. Yep, because support contacts them. They go kind of through everything. Definitely if it's like you get stuck on something while you're trying to build something, you can always contact us. But yeah, if it's definitely feedback about like the product, how something is working, should be working or whatnot, The easiest thing would be to do that create ticket, and then support contacts the correct people if they can't respond.
Okay. All
Okay.
right, then that's what I'll do. Because I did
Yeah.
have some general feedback that I wanted to submit as well.
Yeah, I would definitely do the create ticket. That I would just do that way because it does, again, you have that review your open tickets then. You can always, again, feel free to email support@boardeffect.com. If you have like multiple things and you just want to send it via email, you can. But it might just be easier to do the create a ticket.
Okay. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
no problem.
I appreciate your time today. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no problem. Sorry for kind of the cutoff of the call
No, it's
earlier.
okay.
Okay. All right. Well, then I will go ahead and let you go again. Give me a few minutes to get those links and then I'll send all of that information over to you. But if you need anything else, you have my contact information. So please feel free to reach out.
All right, thanks again for your time.
All right. Well, thank you. You have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.